Most black people know about the housing segregation in which black people were forced to live separately and away from the white population. However, this is not the entire truth. We mean, if there were black towns, why aren't they there today? Well, don't think that there was no housing segregation. Rather, those black towns were intentionally established so they could be wiped out and flooded easily. Those black towns had flourished by the late 1880s, but the racists cannot see that. Until 1888, there were over 200 black towns where, after a few decades, there was no trace of black communities. It turned out that those towns were wiped out and flooded systematically. But how something dark and troubling like that could happen? Welcome to a new episode of Black Culture Diary, a channel where we talk about less known and hidden black history, culture, arts, and lost civilization. We scrutinize history here to bring the black culture back on the surface again. We encourage you to join our community in supporting and building a strong black history education medium. In this episode, we will expose how black towns in the United States were flooded and wiped out for the white population. Let's get started. Seneca Village in New York City comes first. Back in 1825, Seneca Village was a powerful example of a vibrant African American community that defied legal segregation and discrimination that plagued the country. It was established on the outskirts of the city, stretching from 82nd Street to 89th Street on Manhattan's Upper West Side. Around 300 proud black residents called this place home, working tirelessly to build a prosperous and close-knit neighborhood. What's truly extraordinary is that many in Seneca Village owned property, which was a monumental achievement considering the circumstances. At that time, owning property by black people was next to impossible due to the legal hurdles. But still, the property ownership rate was 5 times higher than the city's average. Within that black community, there were 3 churches where black people could gather in faith, a school where they could educate their children, and various small businesses like a grocery store, shoemaker, and blacksmith. But don't get it twisted, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Its black community faced countless challenges, including discriminatory laws that aimed to restrict their freedoms and opportunities. As New York City grew and developed, the wealthy and powerful had grand plans to reshape the area. They wanted to create a massive park that we now know as Central Park. In 1855, the New York State Legislature passed a law that allowed them to use eminent domain to seize black people's land for the park's creation. They accused the black community, the residents of Seneca Village, of being a public nuisance, and they forcibly evicted the black community from their homes to make way for the park's construction. By 1857, the community had been torn apart, and they were left with no choice but to relocate, mostly ending up in Manhattan's Lower East Side. The erasure of Seneca Village is a heartbreaking example of how systemic racism and forced displacement devastated black communities throughout American history. Despite their incredible efforts to build a thriving and prosperous community against all odds, they were pushed to the margins by a government that abandoned the black community and wealthy elites who couldn't care less about their well-being. The loss of Seneca Village had a deep impact on the African American residents who were uprooted from their homes, dreams, and businesses. Today, the only reminder of Seneca Village is a plaque dedicated in 2001 to honor the lost village. That plaque serves as a powerful reminder of the vibrant black communities that have been lost due to discrimination and systemic racism in the United States. It stands as a testament to their strength, resilience, and determination, urging society to recognize and rectify the injustices they faced. Now, let's shift our focus to another devastating incident that shook the black community: the town of Koalaga in Alabama. It was situated beneath the peaceful waters of Lake Martin and once thrived as an African American community founded in the late 19th century. The story began when John Benson, a formerly enslaved individual, purchased thousands of acres of land in Alabama and sold it to other African American families, establishing their community. Koalaga prospered with its very own black-owned railroad and was home to the Koalaga Academic and Industrial Institute. This institute provided education and vocational training to African American students, equipping them with the skills needed to navigate a world that often treated the black community with hostility. Unfortunately, Koalaga's success was short-lived. The rise of the Ku Klux Klan and the limited economic opportunities available to African Americans in the area led to the decline of the community in the 1920s. By the 1950s, the once thriving town had vanished entirely. In the 1960s, The Alabama Power Company purchased all the land with plans to build a hydroelectric dam, resulting in the creation of Lake Martin. Later, to show how prosperous Koalaga was, a museum was built that showcases the rich history of Koalaga, including exhibits on John Benson and the Koalaga Academic and Industrial Institute. Additionally, the society organizes tours of the area and hosts events to celebrate Koalaga's heritage. Then comes the heart-wrenching story of Oscarville. Today, Lake Lanier in Georgia is a well-known spot that people love to visit for fishing, boating, and relaxing getaways. It's a big lake, covering over 38,000 acres with 692 miles of shoreline, and it provides water to the city of Atlanta. But beneath its peaceful surface lies a tragic history that not many people are aware of. Lake Lanier was built on the remains of Oscarville, a once thriving African-American community that was destroyed back in 1912. Oscarville was a small black community located in the northeastern part of Forsyth County, Georgia. It was established in the late 1800s and was home to over 100 black families who worked as farmers, carpenters, and in other trades. Despite facing the oppressive Jim Crow laws of that era, the residents of Oscarville managed to create a self-sufficient and tight-knit community. The destruction of Oscarville started with allegations of assaults against white women in September. 2 black men, along with 4 others believed to be involved, were arrested, and tensions escalated. Later, the body of a white resident was found, which led to the lynching and public execution of the suspects. Following these trials and executions, a group known as the Night Riders, made up of white men, launched a campaign of terror against the black residents of Oscarville. They burned down homes, churches, and schools, forcing black families to flee their homes. As a result, more than 1,000 residents were displaced due to the violence. The land where Oscarville once stood was later purchased by the Army Corps of Engineers, who built Lake Lanier over the remnants of the destroyed community. Perhaps it was done to cover the atrocities that were once unleashed. The lake's construction took place in the 1950s and was completed in the 1960s. Nowadays, it's a popular place for recreation and a significant source of hydroelectric power for the region. However, Lake Lanier's allure carries a haunting history. Some visitors have reported witnessing strange lights, hearing ghostly voices, and feeling a sense of unease in certain areas, believing that the spirits of Oscarville's former residents still linger. Another town called Vanport in Oregon met a similar fate. During World War II, the rapid growth of shipyard industries led to the establishment of Vanport as the second-largest city in Oregon. This attracted African Americans from the southern states who were seeking better job opportunities. However, due to systemic racism, the Albina neighborhood became the only legal place for black people to reside. To address the housing crisis caused by the influx of workers, Vanport was constructed as a temporary solution on a floodplain. Nobody knows whether this was done deliberately. At its peak, the city housed 40,000 residents, with 40% being African American. In 1948, disaster struck when the Columbia River flooded, completely wiping out the entire neighborhood in just one day. Over 18,500 families, including a significant number of black Americans, were displaced as a result. The aftermath of the flood revealed the deep-rooted systemic racism in Oregon. White supremacists attempted to keep black Americans out of the state, and laws were enacted in the state legislature to maintain its predominantly white character. These laws imposed restrictions on black individuals, preventing them from owning property or settling in the state. Even after the laws were repealed in 1956, the legacy of systemic racism persisted. Then comes Susanna Village in Tallapoosa County, Alabama. Susanna Village once thrived as a prosperous and close-knit small town. This charming farming community boasted a range of businesses that served as pillars of the community, including a bank, sawmill, gristmill, post office, and even a gold mine. Situated on Blue Creek between Curry's Point and Stillwaters, Susanna represented a beacon of hope for pioneers seeking a better life in the American South. However, the early 20th century brought an unfathomable tragedy to Susanna. The construction of Lake Martin mercilessly submerged the town underwater, erasing its vibrant streets and bustling businesses forever. All that remains are scattered fragments and memories of what once was. It is heart-wrenching to think that over 900 bodies from the area's cemeteries had to be relocated due to the flooding, underscoring the immense loss suffered by the people of Susanna. Despite this heartbreak, Susanna's legacy lives on in the hearts and minds of Alabamians and history enthusiasts. These black towns and villages, which were allowed to be flooded and wiped out today, stay as a reminder of the atrocities Black people faced in the past. Their homes were destroyed, their businesses ruined, and their dreams demolished. Many had to leave everything, even the graves of their loved ones, in the sinking and wiping towns. Did you ever learn about the merciless flooding of Black towns in history books? Tell us, why isn't this part of Black history taught? Let us know your opinion on the fact that Black people should know their history, no matter how dark and troubling it is. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.